to Down Your Unders. Down Your Unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this extra specially green, wah goodness episode of the AOWdu Down Under podcast, episode 191. We are still on our march to episode 200, which I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back and pop a party popper, and then just get back to grinding against this life that I'm doing, where I record so much every week. But anyway, I'm joined by a very special gentleman making his triumphant return to his home faction, his main bay, Mr. Ben Jurek. He's had some forays into Astra Militarum, played for Scotland at the WTC, some other nonsense, but he's back, baby. And how you doing, Ben? Welcome to the show.
I super appreciate you not talking about my Eldar face.
We all wanted to forget that. We all knew you deserved better. We knew you were better than that. Let's just say it how it is. But suffice to say, you have dillied and then dallied, and now you're back to the Fungus Lords, that being the Orks, with this brand new freaking Codex. I'll tell you a little bit about this episode, guys. It's going to be a little bit different. We're doing probably about 2/3 of the Ork Codex this week, and then I'm going to save the last 2 detachments for next week. But I have the wonderful Ben Jurek joining us to do the first 2 detachments, some army rules, and then his top 3 data sheets that he thinks are going to be some of the best in the mainstay units mainstay army lists going forward. And then we're going to go to the part 2, and we're going to record half of part 2 with Ben answering half of the questions put towards us. If you want to get involved with that, come over to Patreon, AOWdu Down Under. And then I got Lukas Troller joining us, and we're going to do the next 2 detachments after that, and much the same, answering the rest of the questions over in the part 2. So going to get 2 perspectives from 2 very venerable, well-rounded Ork players. And then next week, I've got another guest or 2 lined up to see if we can smash out the rest of the decks. But this dex is so good, so complex, and so freaking deep. Oh my God. Like, Ben, people, me and my mates have been saying that there's 2 potential S-tier detachments, and then like 2 A-tier detachments, and then 2 just fine detachments in this book, which is like better than the last 3 books put together as far as like detachment variance is. Would you stand by that? And what are your hot takes?
I'd stand by that pretty heavily. Like this book may or may not be completely meta defining. This is the newest hotness. This is something to actually be excited about, unlike some recent Codex releases. And they all have their own flavor, and they all play differently, and they all are, for the most part, going to be using different data sheets. So like,
correct. That's
something super exciting.
They have the Ork faction is at such a unit diversity and flavor. Like, they spent all last edition fleshing out, adding all the buggies in 8th edition, and then last edition adding all the bee snaggers, that they can just make a detachment that is almost an entire sub faction, akin to how we would see maybe Drukhari, where you have the Witch Covens units and but then even more than that, like you have a Speed Freaks list that has a bunch of planes, bikes, a couple of different characters, and then just 6 or 7, whatever. How many of it buggies? Whack-a-tracker, wham-bagging, whatever the hell, buggies in there. And you have actually a bunch of unit diversity inside these detachments. And to your point, all these detachments, I don't think I've ever seen a more flavorful Codex. And despite that, they still missed out a bunch of detachments I thought they were going to put in there. Like, there's no Sneaky Boys detachment for Death Skulls, and there's no Piratey Boys detachment for looters and stuff. And they're not missed at all.
Yeah, I'm going to pour one out for my homie, Captain Badrock, real quick here while we get into it. We did lose some data sheets. But there's no freebooter. A little bit sad as a freebooter main for majority of my Ork career. But we do still get an awesome shooty detachment. We do still have lots of other things. So I think they just decided not to double stack too much on on theme and flavor. Is this detachment too much like this detachment? And you're not running to the problem of just like, this is clearly the best detachment. Why would you run anything else?
Well, that's the issue, right? And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. One of the issues I have with the siloing nature of the detachment, I guess, design that GW's gone with the 10th edition is that you run into what I call the Bloody Rose issue, where there was like 6 or however many different options, sub-faction options inside the Sisters Codex, and you only ever saw Bloody Rose. Like, and that was the fear that I've had. I mean, AdMech can speak to that. They have a book with however many detachments, but in fact, they only have 1 detachment. This book does not have that problem. In fact, this book has the opposite problem in the fact that I think this book is so strong, especially if a balanced dynasty like comes in and sorts out some of the things that could potentially be predators for orcs, because these are the things that are already at the top of the meta. This book will take a long time to bottom out and become level with a lot of the rest of the playing field, just by dint of how powerful the best stuff is and by how powerful the second rung down is. Like, straight up, the second rung down of detachments in this book is better than the detachments in just about every other book right now, except for maybe Canoptic and Ironstorm.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. There's so much depth, and like, we haven't even started scratching the surface. You don't even know what's going to be finishing in GTs yet. Like, we have a pretty good idea, but like, you're going to see a lot of list evolutions throughout the rest of this edition based on what this book put out.
Yeah, and what you said before, I think, is the word for it. This is going to be meta defining, and so even if you are not an orc player, I guarantee you want to pay attention to the next 2 weeks of this show, because on part 2, the after we answer a couple of questions with each guest, I'm going to ask them what they think is good into orcs. Like, how would you go about contesting and fighting orcs if you were to design a faction and a list? Like, what kind of things do you want to have tools in your toolbox? And hopefully we can start getting a picture of what orcs are bringing from the opinions of our experts, and then what we as the opposite players can be possibly moving towards to get a little bit of agency. Because especially should Necrons, and this is with no knowledge whatsoever, should Necrons, Templars, a couple of other things at the top of the meta get taken care of, there's just not going to be anything. We're all just going to have to be on orc hunting duty, because they're the only thing that's going to be, worth metaing for in the environment. Would you hold with that as well?
There is a deep irony that the biggest hunter of orcs right now, that was meta defining a huge percent of the meta, gets a giant nerf literally at the same time. It's a big green light for the green boys.
It is, and this is one thing I will stand by. This is my little soapbox. In every edition of the game that I've played, with the exception of one, when Orcs has been the best or one of the best factions in the game has been extremely fun. And I will say that. There's only been one time that I feel like an Orc list has been the best list in the game and toxic, but I argue that Orc list was in fact a guard list in disguise, because it was all the buggies in 8th edition.
I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I was on the wrong side. I was on the correct side of that equation. So
you would, Mr. Wraith Knight playing Sir. You would.
Yeah. Just to clarify my earlier comment, because I didn't say the names. Yeah, the Custodies coming in with a weak Codex at the same time that Orcs are getting a strong Codex, when they've been the clear thing that, like, if you're going to go to a GT, yeah, you can go 5-0, but you're going to go 5-1 as soon as you hit that Custodies matchup. Like, you're just going to fight for your life, and that's just not a thing anymore.
That's true. It's just not a thing. But anyway, let us jump into the meat and potatoes. You guys know what we do here. We're going to be reviewing this book at a holistic and deep a level as possible. The first 2 detachments are going to be taken by Mr. Ben Jurek, one of which is the index detachment, so I'll be leaning on him for anything that has changed. And then I'll just ask him where he thinks these detachments line up internally with the rest of the detachments in this book. And then I'll get some hot takes about where he thinks orcs are going to end up, competitively, and how happy they're going to be. Then we'll go over to part 2 and answer some questions. But we'll be starting our review on page 77. This is the army rule. This is WA. Has this changed at all, my dude?
No, not at all. You still advance in charge when you declare it. You still declare it at the beginning of the battle round. They didn't change that. I'm a little bit sad about that.
Me too.
Really like the ability to do, call it at the beginning of a turn. So calling wall when your opponent goes first, or if you do choose to do turn 1-1, which is very uncommon, but like, when your opponent knows wall's happening, it kind of leaves a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. Don't enjoy that too much. But you still add 1 strength and attack characteristic. You still get a 5 of Binvuln. None of that's changed.
It is one of the best army rules. Like, if you just said, okay, 1 turn of the game, your army is a percentage faster, a percentage better in combat, and a percentage more durable. All 3 of those things, you're just like, okay, this is good. This is a good rule. And you're absolutely correct. The timing on this, the term and condition that you have to do at the start of the battle round, like if I'm going first against orcs and they call a WA, I'm getting out every measuring tool that I have. And I'm just like, clock's on me, baby. This is going to be the turn where I take 10 minutes to measure out every single one of your move, advances, and charges. And I'm going to be like, make them all as hard as possible. So yeah, I do agree. The timing is a bit wonky. All right, my man, War Horde. This is the index detachment. Pretty much we can TLDR this. People know what this one does. You probably played against it, know what's up. You get sustained hits 1 on the, just your army in melee, just gets sustained hits 1. But is anything changed here? We still have Follow Me Lads, Head Whopper, Skill Chopper, Cunning Brutal, Cyborg Body, and all the same stratagems.
Nothing has changed here. Just like who you're gonna put on what. For example, Headwabba's Kill Chopper was like an auto take for your knob on Smash a Squig, with how he functioned but he's no longer a data sheet. He's gone.
Yeah.
He got joined in. So there used to be like some options on what you would do with that, but now it's now everything is exactly the way it was, aside from like what data sheets you're actually assigning to them to.
And so what you're alluding to there is the fact that the knob on Smash a Squig is now the sergeant in the unit of Beast Hog Boys, yeah?
Yep.
Squig Hog Boys. And that unit can be 8, yeah? Because you can take 6 of the Squig Hogs and then 2 knobs on Smash a Squigs. And now you can also attach a freaking Boston Squigosaur to that unit. Because the Boston Squigosaur, his durability's gone down by like maybe a third, but the fact is he gets to join squads. So it's kind of not that bad, yeah?
Yeah, he's a leader now, and he also makes the squad. He also adds like a little pip of durability too with the -1 to wound.
It's nice. It's quite nice. How would you say the Warhorde holds up internally with the rest of the detachments in this book?
Internally, it is, I would say, one of the weaker ones. It's less exciting because it's not as new and shiny. However, don't forget about it. It's still good. It was still in teams and in singles play. With what's changing in the background, like Orks. If you ran this today with the new data sheets, posts on this date when this codex goes live, you're fine. This is a fine detachment. Like there's
you're still talking about a detachment that has +2 advance in charge for a CP. Still talking about one that has fight on death for 2 CP. Still talking one that has a 1 CP crit 5s. You have mob rule. You have Arter's Nails. You have a 1 CP -1 to wound. Like the strats here are still gas, and it is a testament to this book that this is, I think, a mid to lower mid, if not second worst detachment.
Yeah, there's some weird like they didn't fix some of the weird timing stuff in the stratagems. I thought they would actually like review it rather than copy paste. And that's probably like my biggest complaints of this codex, and complaints in Asterisk, because it's a fantastic codex, but there's just like weird clunky timing things. In some of the data sheets, and like for example, mob rules, like an end of your command phase rule. If it was point at that unit and you unbattle shock, then great. But they don't. That doesn't. It's so weird with how it works. Like if you could use it as a response to something battle shocking you, it'd be great, but you don't. So like there's a couple of things like that that they chose just not to make less clunky. I thought they could do a little bit of cleanup, so that's my criticism there. But everything is working exactly the way it's worked since the index came out. And when the index came out, I called this detachment the world's okayest index.
It is. You were absolutely correct. Much like the Orc faction is right now, it is totally okay. It's not too good. It's not too bad. It's exactly like kind of what I think most indexes wanted, like aspired to be, like balance wise. I would always look at Orcs and be like, they kind of do identify everything you identify by Orcs. They manage to cram into one detachment. But let's move on to the second one. This is the big hunt. And the detachment rule is thus. The hunt is on. At the start of the command phase, so your command phase rather, select 1 monster, vehicle, or warlord unit from your army. If your opponent does not have any of these on the battlefield or embarked within transports that's on the battlefield, you can select 1 character unit from your opponent's army. Instead, at the start of the next command phase, you get the following buffs, and that unit is your prey. Each time a beast snagger unit from your army declares a charge that includes your prey, you can reroll charge. And each time a beast snagger model in your army makes an attack that targets your prey, improve the AP by 1. Now, we know AP has been one of the biggest kind of ceilings on the Orc damage output, being AP1, AP2 is kind of the mainstay. AP3 is kind of rare outside, I think, kill swords and stuff like that. So this is a good flatline buff, especially seeing as all the beast snagger stuff is usually pretty low AP as well. But this is the beast snagger detachment. How do you feel about the detachment rule, brother?
I like this this Oath of Moment style
yes,
rule.
It is.
I like these quite a bit. The only caveat is sometimes once again your opponent knows who the prey is. Your opponent gets to kind of play around it. It's still a melee army. It's easier to protect things from melee as in shooting. Like because there's no real shooting beast snagger unit here. So like your opponent's just like, okay, it's one dimensional. I can, I have a little bit of defense here. So like it's playable around, but as far as like fixing the problems that like the best beast snagger units has, which is Squig Hug Boys and such, like that is a massive fix. Like it's huge.
It really is.
it's like bumping those hogs to AP2. You're like, oh, we need to go kill this thing, or like just the fact that you can like get around AOC in some fashion, is really huge, because hitting 2-up AOC stuff with Squig Hug Boys before was a nightmare. This kind of helps alleviate a bit of that.
Yeah. So I do have some problems with the T's and C's of it being monster vehicle or warlord, because there are some armies out there that have, no monsters, no vehicles, and an extremely hard to kill warlord or an extremely safe to keep warlord. I'm talking like, Magnus and stuff. You can just jump around the board and just keep him like outside max charge range kind of at all times. And then if you do that, this rule doesn't exist. And that's my fear. My fear is that if this faction ever really caught on, metaing to just not have this detachment rule exist, in fact, like actually be applicable in the game, it's actually kind of not too hard to do. Like as a guard player, I'll just call my wall. I will literally, of course, as a guard player, I'm gonna have a bunch of monsters and vehicles, but I can just take the most unkillable vehicles, and then I will put my warlord as a company commander off the table or in the back quarter, or I'll make it freaking a loan up unit or some nonsense. But you get what I mean? Actually, Garb was a terrible example for this.
Yeah, as a design piece, it is as I alluded to earlier, it's playable around. So when your entire detachment rule can be dictated by your opponent, I think that can be an issue. But I think this as far as like the big hunt, I think, is more of a specialty tool type of army, where it's really good into some things and not so good in others, simply because you don't have an army rule.
And once we go through this list and through this detachment in its entirety, you'll see there is plenty of parallels. And the words we're going to be saying about what's going to happen to you when you face against this and go second is going to be hilarious. But all right, first of the enhancements is Glory Hog. Beast Boss on Squigosaur. Models in the Bearers unit have the Scout 6 ability. So that is 8.
Scout 9, not Scout 6, Adam. It's even better.
The other one, it's even better. Apologies. I got to magnify. I got enhance. Scout 9. And we already told you that you can have a unit of essentially 9 8 Squig Hogs, 2 Beast Boss, 2 Knobs on Smasher Squigs in there, making the 8, and then attach a Beast Boss on Squigosaur, and you can just Scout 9, call the War turn 1, and you can charge just about anything on the table. How do you feel about this enhancement?
Having a real turn 1 War threat is something that Orcs haven't had specifically since release. So like this grants that as an option. You can totally choose to do that. I love it for staging. I love it for everything you're gonna be doing. Like if you're playing this detachment, you're playing with Squig Hogs. Let's not beat around the bush here. So this is an auto take. Like one of your units is going to be scouting. That's is as good as some other detachments out there in the world that can scout multiple units and charge you. No, but still fantastic.
So this is full pinch of salt with every point that we talk about in this book, if we do talk about points. 30 points is what it says in the back of this book that this attachment costs. And yeah, exactly to your point, if you're playing this attachment, this is an auto include. Tell us about the next one.
That is Scrag Every Stash. Beast Nega model only. At the end of your command phase, if the bear is within range of the objective marker control, the objective marker remains under your control. If you have no models within range of it until your opponent controls it at the start of end of any turn, aka sticky objectives. And it's model only, so that's kind of it doesn't have the T's and C's that of like Beast Boss or whichever. So I'm a big fan of this one specifically. There's some cool, neat stuff you can do with it, especially into the shooting army world of this, or if we ever hit an indirect meta once again, Mr. Guardman. It's nice to not lose those points, especially when your opponent is tied up, having to deal with 20-some Squig Hogs on the field.
Agreed. It will run you 25 points for the privilege. Next one is Proper Killy. Beast Maga model only. Add 1 to the damage characteristic of just add 1 to the damage melee weapons. We know that there is a unfortunate ceiling once again on AP and damage in this book so far, unless that has dramatically changed, mate. I don't believe it has.
It has not.
Yeah, so going from damage 2 to damage 3 is not the worst thing in the world. It's going to be on a Beast Boss on Squigosaur or a Beast Boss. It's the only Pain Boss. Is that good on a Pain Boss?
Beast Snake model only. So yeah, anything with Beast Snake keyword.
Where's this guy's
Pain,
best
Pain
home?
Boss. Yeah, this guy's best home. I am probably throwing him on a beast boss, like a regular beast boss with his boys. Just because of popping dev wounds all day long.
Yeah. Anti-monster, anti-vehicle 4+, which is what keys off the hunters on. So real charges plus AP. Real cool, real good. Tell us about the last one.
Certainly as a Squig Hog, Beast Boss and Squigs are model only, so there's its TNC. While the bear is leading a unit each time an attack targets that unit, if the strength characteristic of that attack is greater than toughness characteristic of that unit, subtract 1 from the wound roll. I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier, but yeah, attaching this, having -1 to wound all the time, so I don't have to spend a CP on it from the index detachment, freaking fantastic, because you're always spending on your Squig Hogs anyway.
Their toughness 7, so it was only strength 14 that was wounding you on 2s as it was. This is, to all intents and purposes, the closest thing we have for the unit that it's applicable for. Is the closest thing we have to transhuman back in the game because of their strength. So the toughness breakpoint that they exist at. Toughness 7. This is you are wounding this unit on 4s unless you are a Titan, super heavy. Like it's just so, or a Primarch. It's kind of wild. I love this one, and it will run you 20 points.
Oh, that's real good. I like that a lot.
Yeah. I think there are 3 auto takes here. You could make an argument for taking all 4 of these enhancements, but Glory Hog and Surly the Squigoth are the auto takes for me. Scragger Stash is probably, like, most likely.
No, I'm taking Proper Killy and throwing that thing on a beast boss every time.
Yeah, fair. That's what I mean. Like, you can't really say. I mean, I think Glory Hog is the make or break.
Right.
Like, if you
Glory Hog is it's good. You're not going to see it. You're building a 1970 point list. Like that's what you're doing.
Freaking build around, baby. But then, dude, you've got Scout 9, you've got a sticky objective, you've got +1 damage, and you have a -1 to wound enhancements. These enhancements are stacked.
Yeah,
so
it's they are. These are. There's not a bad one, which I appreciate.
Me too. All right, into these stratagems. All of these have a thing that they do, and then a thing that they do more better if you're targeting your prey, essentially. The vast majority of these. The first one is drag it down. Of course, we'll tell you when they're battle tactics. This one is a battle tactic. Not that I think that there's any real... Is there any way to make stuff free for Orks?
Not that I know of. I haven't.
Yeah.
There's something missing in the data sheet. There's not a free. We don't have any captains or anything like that. However, they are the ones that can be made more expensive by your opponent.
Correct. Yeah, correct. All right, drag it down. It happens at the fight phase. 1 beast snagger unit from your army that has not been selected to fight. To the end of the phase, melee weapons equipped by models and you have sustained hits 1. In addition, each time model in your unit attacks a melee attack that targets your prey, you crit on 5s. So 1 CP, sustained hits 1. Totally fine for 1 CP. That's a going rate. And then crit 5s should you be attacking your prey. Not bad, hey?
1 CP, borrow an entire another detachment's army rule.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. And then add on its crit 5's ability for 1 CP. Yeah, no, this is great. This is fantastic. The T's and C's are limited because you are in this detachment. You have a very limited line of Beast Snagga. It has to be good with what we're narrowing down to.
All right, next one's yours.
Where do you think you're going? When your opponent's movement phase, just after an enemy unit ends a fallback move, 1 Beast Snagga infantry or Beast Snagga mounted unit from your army that is within engagement range of that enemy unit at the start of the phase. Effect: if your unit is not within engagement range of 1 or more units, it can make a normal move of up to 6.
I love it.
Out of phase movement is becoming, one of the make or breaks, the haves and have-nots that we've seen in this edition. Giving them this have is pretty fantastic. I wish it was more than just a fallback move, but I can see where it would be too powerful otherwise.
Yeah, I agree. Just having an open-ended reactive move within, you walk within 9 inches on Orks would be just so good.
Busted. But absolutely busted.
As it is, this does lean heavily into the fact that you are going to be so aggressive with this list and charging, killing, tapping everywhere that you can. And then having the ability to just someone falls back and you just mob extra guys onto objectives or into cover or out of range or making counter charges longer. I think this is a fantastic strat for this package.
Yeah, It allows you to do so much. If you're totem an objective, you can steal whichever. And it doesn't say, you don't have a TNC of which direction you have to go. So
which I think would have ruined it, by the way. If it said you must end closer to that unit that fell back, you'd be like, nah, never using it.
Yep.
Maybe once every couple of games. Next up is Unstoppable Momentum, also 1 CP. It's in your charge phase, just after a Beast Snagger mounted unit from your army has declared a charge, so literally just Squiggle boys. Select one enemy within engagement range of your unit and roll a d6 for each model in your unit, so that will be up to 9. For every 4+, you suffer a mortal wound to a maximum of 6. If your enemy unit is your prey, roll 3 additional d6s. So if they're your prey and your max unit size is 9, so you'll roll 12 dice and then up to 6 mortal wounds on 4+. This is fantastic.
Holy cow. I love this one, especially with how the fight phase works. Being able to just like impact wound out a screening unit and then pile into something fantastic. This is better than most people's tank shocks. Especially when you got the big Beast Snagger unit. Now it does wear down as you lose guys, but wow, this is amazing as long as you're able to put it into a prey target. You're probably not going to do that to your screen unit's probably not going to be your prey target, but still you're still rolling. You just don't roll the other 3 dice, whatever.
Yeah, it's fine. What I love about this as well is that you can crack a transport, pile into the contents, and absolutely annihilate them as well. There's a lot of applicability to this. It's very, very, very cute. I mean, I played a bunch of Chaos Knights, and I all the time would be like charging something that was almost dead, tank shocking, piling in, and then killing something else directly behind it. So this is exactly that. All right, next up.
Stalking tactics. This is a battle tactic. When happens in your opponent's shooting phase, the target is 1 Beast Snagger infantry or Beast Snagger mounted unit from your army that is selected as a target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks until the end of the phase. Each time a ranged attack targets your unit, models in your unit have benefit of cover against that attack. In addition, if your unit has infantry keyword, until the end of the phase, models in your unit have the stealth ability. So you just get smoke for your unit if they're infantry.
Yep. The mounted units can have cover. What's the save on Beast Hog Boys? Are they got a 4-up?
4-up.
Yeah, not bad. 4-up to 3-up is actually not too bad, but it'd only really be applicable to AP nothing attacks.
Yeah, overall, probably not using this one a lot.
Yeah. This is the if they're writing a really fine line of what they're going to put into your unit, and if your unit survives, it's like a 5-point swing. Maybe you give it a crack. But I think this is possibly the worst one. Next one is that one's even bigger. This is 1 CP. It's in your charge phase. 1 Beast Snagger from your army. Until the end of the phase, your unit is able to declare a charge in a turn in which it advanced or fell back, provided one of the targets of that charge is your prey. 1 CP, advance and charge, fall back and charge. Chef's kiss. Fan-freaking-tastic. Your army can advance and charge for 1 CP all game, at least 1 unit.
Well, I actually in some play testing I've seen, this one is difficult to use if your opponent knows what they're doing because of the free TNC. Yep. So I love the effect if you're able to follow that TNC. So this is another one where you literally can't use this rule if your opponent doesn't allow you to play with your army rule.
Correct. Yeah. If you're playing against somebody, an Ironstorm, and you've got vehicles for literally days, this thing is just always active.
Amazing.
But you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. You play against like Custodians or something, and well, as they sit right now, and they didn't bring any Caladius at that turn, or they did, and they're just like over there on the other side of the table. You're kind of screwed.
Yeah, it's this one. Sometimes amazing. Home run hitter. Other times unusable. So
yeah. Agreed. This is the one you explain to your opponent, because all your opponent will hear is advance and charge for 1 CP. They won't, because they'll glaze over. Yeah. I do it all the time. I glaze over all the time and ask my opponent questions at the start of the game. They're like, "Okay, he's got advance and charge. All right, sick."
Well, this one is really well paired with the enhancement, the Scout 9 enhancement. It makes you not need a turn 1 wall. So you can just full send that 1 unit as long as there's a prey target that you can go after.
Yeah.
So I like that a lot, because there's that Rhino in your line. Cool. Here's my prey target. Scout, advanced charge. Boom. You don't need the wah. You can just do it.
I love it. All right, last one.
Instinctive Hunters. When enter your opponent's fight phase, target 1 Beast Snagger unit from your army that is not within range of one or more enemy units. Effect: remove your unit from the battlefield and place it in strategic reserves. I think this one has a lot of interesting play. I don't know how I feel about it. I haven't got to play with much of it, but there's opportunity here.
So it's in strategic reserve, so you can ingress, and so that I think is in my head. You have 2 maxed out units of Squig Hogs, and you one of them is scouting turn 1, and the other one is getting put in reserve with this turn 1. And then when you get a CP on your turn 2, that one ingresses in on their turn. And in my head, that's my best case use for this, apart from just chucking stuff in reserve for engage and behind and teleport and stuff like that. But that's how I can see putting people in hog jail, which is what I'm calling this detachment, is putting people in a hog jail.
Mounted is notoriously easy to move block. So this gives you opportunity to kind of move around some of the move blocks without giving them like some broken wraith ability or something. The thing that I'm seeing here once again is this plays really well with the enhancements. You can stick to the objective and then just leave. So if your opponent is jammed up in the middle of the board and you have your natural expansion taken, you can just be like, oh well, these guys are gonna sticky and leave and then go fight somewhere else on the board.
Beautiful. All right, my man, it's time for us to talk data sheets. Give us. I'm not gonna tell Lucas which 3 you pick. He's just gonna pick blind. And if you guys pick all the same ones, it's going to be hilarious as hell. And so people might just hear 2 perspectives on the same thing. But that will tell you everything at home, everything you need to know about how good people think these units are. Where do you want to start?
Oh God, you're setting us up to name the same thing over and over again. Well, we're just gonna go straight to the problem. The Meganobs. let's rip off the Band-Aid and talk about the thing that if they are the current points that they're at are going to be a problem. You're going to see them on every table. This is the as far as the design goes, you can run them in every detachment, including the big hunt if you really wanted to. Even though they don't benefit from any of the rules, they are that stupid good. So just to give the stats of the datasheet, they're movement 5, toughness 6, 2-up save, 3 wounds with leadership 7, and OC 1. Their ability, datasheet ability, is during the battle run at which you call a WA, models and unit have a feel no pain 4-up ability.
Okay, we pause there for a second. G-Dub, stop it. Stop printing that rule. No 4-up feel no pains. Maybe on a select character and or Primarch, but 4-up feel no pain, no, cease. You learned your lesson with the 3-up invulnerable saves. You learned your lesson with your re-rollable cover saves and invulnerable saves in 7th edition, 8th edition. We taught you that 3-up invulnerable, 2-up invulnerable. Please no. This edition, 4-up feel no pain, yeeteth into the sun. No more. Stop. Cease. Just stop it. If this is a 5-up, far more reasonable a unit. But the fact of the matter is, it's a 4-up, and there is a detachment coming, which you probably maybe already know about, which is the big way these guys pop off, even though they're extremely good just for their points in any detachment, where you get to call the WA twice. And that's the Bully Boys. That'll be literally the last one we cover next week, because that's the order that they're in. Where these guys literally have a 4-up, a 2-up, 4-up, sorry, a 2-up, 4-up feel no pain for almost half the game. 2 turns out of 5. Which is busted. Straight up just busted.
Yeah, you get a Custodian Warden style of durability that isn't phase dependent, that isn't turn dependent. Okay.
2 full battle rounds. 2 full battle rounds, man. We complain about Wardens that have it for 1 phase. These guys can have 2 full battle rounds. Your turn, my turn, every phase. It's toxic.
On this date in April 21st, the year of our Lord 2024, what is the price of a Meganob, Adam?
In the back of this book, it's 180 for 6. So they're 30 points a model. Is that as they sit right now, or are they more or less than that in a later?
That's where they sit right now, yeah.
Balanced data slate, yeah. So 30 points. How many points is a Custodian Warden by any chance?
I think they're 50 or more, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, they are insanely cheap, extremely buffable profile. Such a potent platform for just taking every buff you can get on it, especially any movement increasing things, because of course movement 5 is their biggest downside. But then they just get into combat, and you have a kill saw, which I think is one of their better weapons, which is 2 attacks, only 2 attacks, but you can of course give them more attacks at strength 12, neg 3, 2 damage. Very good.
Yep. Very good. Very good. They also have twin linked. You're taking twin kill saws majority of the time. That'd be my chosen loadout. Guess what they gave up to get that 4-up feel no pain?
What did they give up, mate?
They no longer grant dev wounds during the WA.
Fair. I'd rather feel no pain. But yeah.
No. every day of the week. So it's like oh no.
So a Custodian Warden is 50. 20 more points.
Yeah,
for a Warden. Yeah, 4 of them cost 200 points. So here's the other thing that we need to point out about Mega Knobs: the granularity upon which you can build your units. Rather than being here's the one price for a min squad, one price for a max squad. In the back of this book, you have a price for 2 models, 3 models, 5 models, and 6 models, which makes them extremely value for getting in and out of transports. So you can take the right amount to fit to just chuck Mega Knobs in truck the list. You're not stuck with taking 6 that can't go in anything except a freaking battle wagon if they've got any character support. So they are just so flexible, so good, and the fact that they shoot like just fine is kind of insulting.
Yeah, this unit is going to be the problem child. This unit is the not surprised if FAQ or nerf comes out sooner than later on them.
Yeah.
Like if they prove to be the issue I think they're going to be, they definitely deserve it. These guys are a menace.
To the fix for these guys, just off the cuff, is it points? I would like to see them go up by 5 to 10 points, but then the Fiona Payne go to a 5+, and then
this is a point lever. Like if you made them 50 points apiece, it'd be you just don't run them like at that point.
Correct.
So this is a points lever. It's fine.
Yeah. I think maybe you run one unit at that many points, because it still can just be the lull, I win. And you have to be able to kill this many models to play this game. But anyway, what would be your next pick for data sheet?
I am going to go with my theory here in choosing these is, data sheets you're going to see most common across the board. This means I need to put aside my personal biases and what I really enjoy and just say the good stuff.
I want the last one to be something you just really enjoy then. So give us 2 of the good stuff. Last one is Ben Jurek's Heart and Soul.
The War Boss. The War Boss will be standard all War Boss. He's going to be everywhere. He's going to either be leading boys or knobs. He's going to be in dang near every detachment except for the big hunt, honestly, because you just take a beast boss because he doesn't have beast in the keyword. But the good old War Boss, he does the same thing he did in the index as far as adding 1 to the hit roll, but he does now add 4 attacks, where I believe he only added 3 before, so they give him a little bit of a buff. And that you'll see that throughout the majority of the Codex, where it's just like little tiny adjustments here and there. And yeah, you definitely can't complain of the good old War Boss. He's there with he's a source of strength 10. He carries most of the enhancements you want to be. He's going to have, he's your leader. He's your man. He's the reason you can call the wall in the first place. He's fantastic. He's bread and butter.
Yeah, absolutely agree. 70 points as listed in the back of this codex. Of course, take all the points we talk with a grain of salt and need to reiterate that. But yeah, the +4 attacks, going to the 8 attacks with like a claw, with a very buffable thereafter. I mean, in the WAR, you get another plus attack, don't you?
Yes, you do.
So he's on 9 attacks. So in fact, it's +5 attacks when you call the WAR. He's really good. He's very good. For 70 points, you're exactly right. He is your buffable all-platform, take enhancement, do thing. I would like to just slap in the Beast Snagger, the Beast Boss as well, for much the same reason. Should you be going down that track, he also comes with the 6-up Feel No Pain. And yeah, he's just kind of the same thing, but more better into vehicles and monsters due to his keywords. Doesn't get the bunch of attacks though, but does get the dev wounds.
Yeah, making boys and knobs hit better. Boys hitting on 2s or knobs and claws hitting on 3s or whatnot. Fantastic place to be.
Sounds good.
The War Boss and Mega Armor also, just like all the versions of War Boss, doesn't matter. War Bosses this book is very War Boss themed. You got to have your War Bosses.
All right, my man. What is the Ben Jurek hot pick?
Oh, I'm gonna call up Val Helpful-Finger here for this because he's gonna love me for it. The Stomper.
Yeah, boy. all the people. I'm just gonna say all the people who were just like losing their minds when they put the Stomper in the book box, being like, why? They're just trying to make Stomper. The Stomper better be good. Guess what, Ben? Continue. The Stomper is good.
Yeah, just a sneak peek into the Dread Mob. All of the majority of those of the detachment rule and the stratagems there all hit the Stompa incredibly well. The Stompa standalone by himself, not so great. The Stompa that rerolls all its hits every turn, holy cow.
Yeah, dude.
This guy, I have been personally doing a little bit of testing and fooling around with him, putting him on some WTC boards to see how he interacts with terrain. He's taller than any actual terrain, still is towering. he's the threat from a Stampa is very real. It can kill just about anything, and double Stampa lists at your RTTs may or may not prove to be a menace for you if you can't deal with a T14 like 30 plus wound target. Like it's they can be absolutely bonkers.
Still has a 2-up save. Like literally has a 2-up armor save.
Yeah, and if you don't have cover with this guy, I don't know what you did.
Yeah, you're exactly right. How? I'd be impressed if you managed to not have cover. Like as a point of pride for you, the Orc player, being like, I don't need cover, finding some freaking angle. Anyway, my man, we're going to do our rating system. So, how, as you as an Orc player, as an Orc specialist, as an Orc diehard, what out of 10, how happy are you with this book?
Are we allowed to go above 10?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, go nuts.
I've been doing this since 2017 and I've been somewhere in like the top 5 Orc players in, at any point in time since then, per ITC or whatever. And this is the best book that has come out ever. So yeah, infinity high. Like you can't. Yeah. We have unprecedented times to be an Orc.
Yeah, I heartily think that this may be the best Orc Codex they've ever had, the faction has ever had. The 5th edition one may be a contender where you could literally, whichever war boss you took, you got that unit as core. Like if you took a war boss on bike, you had bikers and knobs on bikers as like battle line. But that would be the equivalent now. That was a really cool book too. And the 8th edition book was really cool as well. But this is a head and shoulders above by just dint of the depth of design and flavor upon each faction. Like they did every detachment right. And it's extremely good. Even like the worst detachment, which is the Speed Freaks one, in my opinion, has phenomenal rules. It's just the logistics of using those sized bases en masse on the buggies and stuff like that is just awkward as hell and makes for an interesting experience.
They are the example of great on paper, not so much on board.
Yeah, exactly right. It's just a logistical issue. But still, when we unpack that, you will see that it is a very good detachment. Like on paper, they gave it all the right things. It's just we're playing too much terrain for those bases to work. Anyway, we are going to do one more rating system. This one shouldn't be a hard one. From our traditional D all the way up to S tier, where would you put Orcs?
S. Like snap call. S. Like these are meta defining, gonna be silly, and maybe even meta defining with multiple detachments, which is where Necrons are at.
Well, the funny thing is, if we see Necrons bumped off, and Ironstorm, Black Templars bumped off, and Orcs reign supreme at the top of the meta, I want to see how Orc players meta for each other. The fact that the depth of this book has me thinking that there's anti-Orc. The Orc like internal metagame at the top of the pile will just be so fun with people playing this detachment to counter this detachment, getting countered by this detachment into this detachment. I'd be okay with that. That sounds fun to me because that's Orcs. And that is fun. But yeah, it may be a rough time for everyone else. On that note, we're done, mate. We're out of here. Any parting words for the aspiring war boss?
I'll do this just this once. Whoa! There.
Thank you, mate. That was the right thing to do. Everybody, I should have... Seamus, can you, before he does that, can you just put in a disclaimer? Turn down your volume, please. We heartily suggest you turn down your volume and or unplug one of your earphones for the following.
I should have warned you.
Right. No, you're totally fine, brother. I appreciate the enthusiasm. All right. We're going to go over and record... Well, Mr. Jurek and I are going over and record half of part 2 right now, but you guys will be hearing the dulcet tones of Lukas Troller joining you momentarily. We'll be right back. And we are back with the wonderful lad from the Pacific North, whatever you call it, to the left of center North America, Lukas Troller. Hello, brother.
Nailed it, man.
Nailed it.
Hello. How are you, Adam?
I am extremely good. Everyone who's just caught up to us now, who's listening to us right now, has enjoyed the dulcet tones of the lovely Ben Jurek, returning from a foray into Eldar and Imperial Guard back to his home of the Fungus Lords. You, my man, have been doing much the same, piloting Orcs to extremely good results for Team America in the last WTC. And then you and I have been talking extensively about Chaos Knights for some time. And you even said... it would take a very good Orc book to get me back to main them again. Well, guess what, mate? I'm assuming you're back maining Orcs again.
Yeah, as it turns out, we're turned into the green roots, and this book is a fantastic place to do that. Yeah, I've been playing Chaos for several months now, on and off, and especially since like the WTC times, I've just been enjoying the spiky lads a little bit. But we're back in green, baby. Let's go.
Let's go. All right, give us your hot takes. How good is this book? How excited are you about it? And anything you wish was a little better?
I think the book is really, really strong. Obviously, the community is in some state of between uproar and nervous, discussion about what Meganobs and Bully Boys are going to do. Maybe this is a bit of like, I'm an orc player, so of course I don't think it's that bad. But we've had Chosen before, we've had Wardens. This is like a nasty mix of the two. But they are, Bully Boys has a bunch of units with very clear downsides. And I think as people adapt to Orcs, they're going to be absurdly strong in the meta. We'll kind of have to see how Bully and other armies kind of like balance each other out. So that is obviously a very powerful detachment, and we're going to be seeing a ton of Orcs in the next couple of months. But the great news is the other detachments are not only very flavorful, but also very powerful. So we'll see some more players branch out as Bully Boys start becoming teched for.
I agree. In fact, I was joking that if, say a balanced data slate does come in soon and sort out the top couple of problem factions, key being Templars and Necrons getting sorted out, in particular, of course, Wraiths and Catan, and then, basically free multi-melters on everything in Ironstorm getting somewhat sorted out. Necrons may just be supreme on the top of the pile, but it's actually going to be kind of interesting to see the Orc top of the pile metagame, because I think Orcs counter Orcs very well. Every Orc build, I think, can counter another Orc build, which I think is going to be extremely funny to see when they've got literally 5 different builds existing in the meta, and they're all good into another Orc build. I think that's going to be, if that's all we're left with, I think I can live with it, because it's still probably going to be a fun time.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, my man, we're going to be joining this review at page, just scrolling down to it. I don't even know what page is. It's the Cult of Speed detachment is where we're going to be starting this review. Now, on great request, and at the behest of many people who want to let this mad lad talk about the Green Tide, we will be skipping Dread Mob, which is the next one after Cult of Speed, and we will be reviewing the one after that, the Green Tide. So next week, we'll be reviewing the Dread Mob and the Bully Boys. And no, I have not saved the 2, possible S-tier ones. That's just how they've worked out like this, and the fact that Lucas specifically asked for it. But Cult of Speed is the first one we're going to be talking about today, and Adrenaline Junkies is the special rule, detachment rule, rather. Speed freaks units from your army that are eligible to shoot in a turn in which they advanced or fell back. So shoot on advance and fallback, essentially army-wide, because I suppose maybe there's some boys in Gretchen in this list that aren't speed freaks, and everything else probably is. How do you feel about this attachment rule, mate?
It's really strong. In 40k, you can be tough, you can do damage, and or you could do lots of different things. And this is a utility flexibility buff. It's that latter one, right?
Yeah.
So this enables you to do all sorts of different things that previously the speed freak units couldn't do, right? They just had to move their 12 or 14 inches or whatever it was and hope that was good enough, and very often it wasn't. And then also it's a ton of vehicles. Getting bogged down in combat was terrible for them, and this goes a long way to resolving a lot of those problems.
Straight off the cuff, there's very, very one of these strangleholds or levers that the GW is pulling this edition is that very few units get to do anything when they fall back. Very few. Yes. And most people have to pay CP for the privilege. This is just army-wide, so I think that's quite good. Take it away. Tell us about the first of the enhancement, mate.
Here, let me navigate to it real quick. I'm going off of the video rather than the book.
It's all good. I'll take it. Wad's Blaster is up. Death Killer Wartrike model only. In your shooting phase, after this bearer's unit has shot, if it is not within engagement range of any enemy units, it can make a normal move up to 6 inches. It cannot declare a charge afterwards. So move, shoot, move, or advance, shoot, move is pretty good. And what can Death Killer Wartrikes join now, unit-wise?
I'm pretty sure it's just the Warbikers.
I think it is just Warbikes.
Yeah, which this is interesting. I think it is the greatest selling point for it is it's very cheap, right? So if you can slot it in for 10 points, cool. If not, I'm not too worried about it. It really does not break the bank in any capacity. But we'll kind of see this as we continue to talk about the rules for this detachment. But it is very speed freaks in that the goal is just to be irritating and muck your opponent up.
Yes.
And not relying on like a 6 or a 7-inch charge, and just going 6 to move block them is pretty good, honestly. So I think this one could be sleeper pretty decent.
What's the Warbike special rule? Is it auto advance 6 by any chance?
So the Warbikers get +1 AP in their shooting weapons when they're within 9 inches. And the Deathkiller Wartrike has auto advance 6 for his unit.
That's right.
Paired with each other, they can synergize pretty well.
Absolutely. So it's move 12 on the Deathkiller Wartrike. So it's going 18 and still shooting in this detachment, and then moving another 6 inches. If you want to just take a big unit of Warbikes and first turn just keep your opponent in their deployment zone, absolutely that's a thing you can do with this enhancement. All right, and you said it was 10 points. Beautiful. So take it away. What's the next one?
Faster than use. Great enhancement name. So we've got an infantry model only. And they basically get assault ramp when they get out of a transport. So any unit they join can launch a charge after disembarking from a transport after it moves, which is really, really good. Yet another, we've only gone over 3 abilities, and all 3 of them are move faster and muck your opponent up nice and good. So this is really good on lots of different options, right? Like we're all talking about how good Meganobs are getting out of a car. What about 20 guys getting out of a battle wagon?
Yep. This will run you 35 points for the privilege, and naturally take all the points that we talk about in this episode with a grain of salt, like I said last one as well. Next one is Squig Hog Tires, Deathkiller Wartrike model only. Each time a model in the bearer's unit makes a consolidation move, it can move up to 6 instead of 3. So just every turn of the game at all times, you just console 6, and it will run you 15 points. I don't know if I'm taking that one, but it's not awful.
It is not awful. It's a lot like Wise Blaster, honestly, where it just helps you a little bit in keeping your opponent bogged down, but it's not really going to be a make or break.
Beautiful. Tell us about the last one.
Speed makes right. 25 points. In the command phase, if you're within 9 inches of an enemy unit, you gain a command point on a 3-up. And you can take it on any orc model. Unless I'm missing something, I don't think this is that great, unfortunately. The big reason why is we already have Gretchen. Gretchen are a staple in basically every detachment, including Cult of Speed, and they're already going to be giving you CP. This is a list. This is an army that can play tactical very well, so you'll be getting some CP from that. A third way to very situationally gain a command point is it's not worth 25 points, in my opinion.
The T's and C's in this are all wrong for me. 9 inches of one or more enemy units. If you are that close with a character, you are charging. And a lot of the time, the turn after a model an orc unit charges, that orc unit is dead. So this is likely once per game on a 2/3 chance to get 1 CP. Especially if you tell your opponent you have this possibly CP generating enhancement, which they will want to remove. But it is orcs model only. It's the only one that doesn't have to go on a speed freaks. Faster than you can go on an infantry model as well. But this is open-ended. This is any orcs model that's a character.
Exactly. That was my thinking was, put it on a mega boss with mega knobs that can muck your opponent up and, then get you some CP. But wouldn't you rather have the assault ramp enhancement?
Yes, correct. All right. But as far as the enhancements go, I think there are 2 bangers in there. I think the move shoot move is absolutely great. And I think faster than use is fantastic. The other 2, I probably wouldn't bother unless I had exactly that many points left and nothing else to do with them. All right, first of the stratagems, speediest freaks, 1 CP. And naturally, we will tell you when any of these are a battle tactic. Your opponent's shooting phase, or the fight phase, just an enemy unit has selected its targets. 1 speed freaks or truck unit from your army that was selected as a target. Till the end of the phase, models in your unit have a 5+ invulnerable save. If your unit is a vehicle, unit with the unmodified toughness characteristics of 8 or less, you have a 4-up invulnerable save. That's most of the buggies, are the 8 or less.
Yep. And then the truck as well.
And the truck.
Is T8. So this is nice. I think this will be a situationally useful strat.
Yeah.
Just not to just slam immediately when your opponents start shooting you, but once they start running out of things to shoot and they're trying to scrape you off a final objective or kill some extra unit that's going to move block next turn, you can be and you won't actually do that now.
Yeah. One of my issues with this is the change in modality of some of the buggy units. There's no buggies you can take in units anymore. They're all singles, yeah?
Yeah. So it's going on a relatively low value unit.
It's 1 CP on a relatively low value. The other best use is just probably on maxed out units of bikes. But even then, it's not nuts. But 1 CP for a 4-up on a vehicle is still pretty nice. If it was a 4-up on a bike, that would be absolutely absurd, but it's not.
Yep.
It has to be a vehicle to get the 4-up. What's the next one?
This is 1 CP squig flinging. I'm getting all the funny names.
You are.
So we've got Speed Freak or Truck ending a move within 9 inches of an enemy unit. And then they will force a battle shock test on that unit at -1. So this is, again, another situational stratagem that can just help you, bog your opponent down. They can't use any, The great news is it's in the movement phase, right? So like the very first thing you could do is move by. You're like, I got 2 or 3 CP sitting around. I'm not really using them on any of my single buggies this turn. Let's see if you randomly fail this morale check. Oh, you did? Okay, now I'm gonna get mob you while you don't have AOC.
Exactly. So, or you can't, or I'll commit to more combats because you can't interrupt or spend a bunch or heroic intervene or all sorts of stuff like that. But yeah, It's a good utility strat, but it's not going to come up as much as you think.
Yep. Every once in a while you use it. It can also battle shock them so you can cleanse that objective and stuff like that. Yeah. So all sorts of cool little use cases. It's niche, a little bit like Speediest Freaks, but it's a good one.
All right, and next one is part of 2 stratagems. The next 2 stratagems are all extremely good damage buffing strats, and they even put a caveat, the restriction at the bottom of them, that they can't be used together. Very funny. These are both battle tactics as well. The first one is Darker Storm 1 CP. It's a shooting phase. Your shooting phase, rather. It's 1 Speed Freaks unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot. To the end of the phase, ranged weapon equipped by models in your unit have sustained hits 1, while targeting you within 9 inches, they have sustained hits 2. Pretty spicy, especially with some of the hellacious amounts of DACA you can put down with some of these various units. Where do you think this finds the best home?
I don't know if Defcopters have the Speed Freaks keyword, but that's the thing that jumps off the page.
I am super high because all right, when we get to the end of this detachment, we'll talk about what this army kind of looks like. But I think Defcopters are a sleeper banger in this detachment. I think
especially because you're jamming this full of so many crappy units that you don't really need your CP for anything in particular. So you can just have 1 killer unit of Defcopters, come down out of rapid ingress, zoom up, because these stratagems really get good within 9 inches. Obviously the downside of that is you can't deep strike and proc them right away, but for the low cost of 1 CP, you absolutely can. And that's CP being rapid ingress, to be clear. So you rapid ingress in, use the strat, you blast someone to hell, and then you might use another stratagem later on to run away if you're at the right.
Correct. And Speed Freaks Defcopters do indeed have Speed Freaks. I think Defcopters are fan-freaking-tastic. All right, what's the next one, which is the other big damage increase here?
This is Blitzifier. So again, this is not a stratagem you can use in conjunction with Daka Storm. This is 1 CP. It is a battle tactic, a lot like Daka Storm. You get lethal hits for a Speed Freaks unit, and then if you're within 9 inches, you also get critical 5s. So if you're just shooting someone, you grab some lethal hits if you're shooting a particularly tough target. And again, if you're within 9 and shooting that tough target, you're just skipping the wound step altogether, which is pretty darn good.
And you see why they didn't let these 2 go together.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, the conjunction of lethal and sustained is not that amazing, but it's the critical parts. When you get a critical hit ability and you combine multiple abilities that proc on 6s, all of a sudden making that on 5s, it's like quadruple dipping, and that's just silly.
Yes, it is. So those are just, I'm of the opinion one of those is getting spent every turn in this detachment.
The great news is you don't have to build a game plan around either one. You take your big brick damage dealing Defcopters, you're shooting at something that's greater than strength 8, you use Blitzifier, you're shooting at something that's less than strength 8 or T8 or blastable, and you use Daka Storm.
Daka Storm, exactly right. All right, Full Throttle is up next, 1 CP battle tactic. In your charge phase, just after a Speed Freaks unit from your army ends a charge move. Until the end of the turn, each time a model in your unit makes an melee attack, add 1 to the wound roll. 1 CP plus 1 to wound. Yeah, baby. Yeah. It also plugs up a couple of the issues with the army, because naturally, if you're playing Speed Freaks units, none of them are kind of that punchy for the points compared to other orc equivalents for the points, like a knob or a mega knob. You are extensively playing with, a boy on a bike or a boy in a copter or whatever menagerie of weird, delightful melee things your buggies have, because they're all completely different. Is this any good in this detachment, man? Because this in any other detachment, I think, in this book is incredible. In this, it's a little bit weird.
Oh, man. I think this is not a fantastic stratagem. It'll be occasionally useful for, oh, my Def Copters need to go in and clear X out. But like the rest of your army is so MSU that you're getting +1 to wound on like 4 attacks. That might translate to 1 more wound. That's not worth a CP. But if you have the volume of like, maybe a Def Killer Wartrike joined to 6 Spikers, or the unit of 6 Def Copters, okay, they need to go in the late game and clear something out. Okay, I've got some CP sitting around for this. That's not too bad.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Def Killer Wartrike unit is the best home here. Only 4 attacks on the character I find a bit underwhelming, but his strength 2 -2/2 +1 to wound does get that over some pretty hefty breakpoints, especially into vehicles. All right, give us the last one.
1 CP, more gets over here. So we've got a reactive move of 6 inches if an enemy moves within 9 inches of a Speed Freaks unit.
Fantastic.
So yeah, great. This is one of the best durability buffs in the game, is just not being shot or charged in the first place. And again, this is going to help keep that damage dealing unit of Def Copters operational for the whole game, which is great news. And unlike the buggies and the bikes that take up a ton of space, the Def Copters get to choose their location when they come in out of reserves, and then they can kind of like stay in a little pocket and shoot, and then when people get close to try to engage them, run away, and then they can move out 14 again next turn, shoot, use the reactive, run away again. They're just difficult to engage.
Agreed. Also, on that unit of bikers that I was talking about that had the move, shoot, move, you can move, shoot, move, block people into a quarter. Then when they move closer, just run away again with 1 CP.
Yup.
It is wild. Your unit has moved 30 inches in this battle round. Congratulations. Yep. That brings us to the end of the Speed Freaks. And what I was going to say at the end here, you may look at this and be like, oh my God, this is the buggy detachment. I do not believe that's the case. I think this is the bike and Def Copter detachment. And whilst there probably is a buggy worth taking, I don't think there are many buggies worth taking. So you may find that you're taking 2 or 3 single of a buggy that is good for your meta. But outside that, the rest of this gets a little bit awkward, because outside the bikes and the cofters, logistically, the rest of this list is a nightmare. The buggies are on enormous bases that will choke each other, that can't go through walls, that don't actually move. They move decently fast, especially with advance and shoot and all that, but they're not like Chaos Knights just walking through walls and getting out of each other's way on demand. Essentially, your deployment is going to dictate a lot of your potential play. And so to that end, this is one of the more awkward and interesting detachments. How do you find it, or how do you rate it?
Yeah, I think similarly, you really want to take maybe a couple of key units that get all of the attention, all the command points, all the real estate on the board, and then everything else is just like a little shit unit that goes and does this, or is OC3 on this objective, or charges your opponent and is annoying. The great news is, like, none of this stuff has fallback and charge, but it all has fallback and shoot. So you can still fall back and do an action. You can just fall back and do some damage while you're at it, while you're move blocking your opponent. It's just a nuisance. Like, thematically, it's very appropriate in my opinion, right? They're not doing a ton of damage to you, other than like maybe the 1 unit of Def Copters that's getting all the resources, but they're running in and mucking you up and getting in the way and being annoying, just the way Speed Freaks are in the lore. So super happy that we got like a lore friendly version of Speed Freaks as opposed to just the absolute hellstorm that was 9th edition. I love this detachment. I think it's great. I think it really, in many ways, it's kind of just the wall of crap that I was playing at WTC last year. It's just tons of stuff that your opponent can't hope to kill all of, and hopefully it's enough for you to win the game on points.
Yep. All right. The only other facet of this list that I haven't truly unpacked is the planes. From my quick skim over their rules and points, I didn't see anything exceptionally exciting. Like, I didn't see, a freaking Storm Raven level flyer that's worth skewing into to kind of wrap this list around. But am I wrong in that estimation, or have you found some little sleeper gems?
There's a couple of like minor synergies that are cool. Like the Dakajet gets critical hits when it just
every hit.
Gets a hit, which is kind of cool with Blitzifier / Dakastorm. But like, use that stratagem on Def Copters. Come on, like, wouldn't you rather shoot a rocket at someone than a shoot a bullet?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not a big shooters.
Yeah, I wish the big shooters were another damage with damage 2, strength 6 -1, day 2 would be everything. And the last one is which buggies do you like the most?
So I'm going to be honest with you, Adam. I don't remember their names very well because I don't pay much attention to them. But there's one of the buggies, I think it's the Snaz Wagon, that has like a -1 to hit aura. These buggies, again, are just to get in your opponent's way and be annoying. So if I can take a buggy that gets up in their face, charges them, and then when they try to respond, you're shooting into a vehicle that's already -1 to hit. Okay, do you want to fall back? Well, now I have a 6-inch aura of -1 to hit. This thing is all of a sudden controlling a lot of space with that aura.
Yep.
I also like the Dragsta because it teleports, and that gets around the problem of you move block yourself.
Exactly. I am of the same opinion. I was going to say the Shock Dog Dragsta is currently my favorite. It's got the biggest upside on the weapons as well. Like it's got decent weapons that can spike very high, and all orcs, you want to play for the big spikes because your reliability is very low generally. And then, it just gets out of its own way, gets out of your way, jumps around, can get your secondaries. Yeah, I rate it. Okay, moving on. And we're going to go to your bay, your request, your heartfelt plea.
Let's go.
We do Green Tide. All right. The army rule is mob mentality. Each time an attack targets a boys unit from your army, models in the unit have a 5+ invulnerable save against that attack. In addition, each time an attack targets an orcs unit from your army, if it contains 10 or more models, reroll 1s on saving throws made against that attack. So army-wide 5+ invuln for 5 turns. You will get that in every other detachment on 1 turn when you call the war, or 2 turns for bully boys. But entire game 5+ on boys, that being just regular boys and beast snagger boys, yeah?
It is just the boys data sheet.
Just the boys. Literally just boys, not even beast snagger boys.
It is the boys data sheet.
Fair.
Beast snagger boys get nothing from this, unfortunately.
Is what it is. Is this a good detachment rule?
Yes. It is the first part of what makes a horde successful. The two most important parts of horde are durability and mobility. This makes the durability of boys, who are already fairly tough, especially for the points, really just like, we're all familiar with charging orc unit. They roll a couple too many 5-ups. All of a sudden, more greenskins are standing there than you're comfortable with, and you're getting pummeled. That lasts the whole game now, not one battle round. And boys don't hit like knobs and mega knobs do, but like they'll add up over time. And with some of the other mechanics in this detachment, there's going to be a lot more boys hitting you than you're comfortable with over the course of the game.
And the other facet to horde armies is if you don't have the durability, you have recursion usually to patch it up. Like we've seen that with the cultist spam, we've seen that with the gargoyles or in the termagants and cormagants right now for endless swarm. Not durable, but the fact is you get to re-rack them, so is so much the better. So when we talk about durability, we mean kind of that as well. You're getting to have recursion. What's the first of the enhancements?
So the first enhancement is Bloodthirsty Belligerence, which I believe is 15 points.
Correct.
It gives his unit, so you can put it on any infantry character if I recall correctly, and it gives that character's unit reroll advances, and then when they have 10 or more models in the squad, reroll charges as well.
I think you're thinking of a different one. Ferocious Show Off, is that the one you're talking about? It is add 1 to the strength characteristic of the bearer's melee weapons. If the bearer's unit contains 10 or more models, add 3 to the bearer's strength characteristic instead.
Yes. Sorry, going off of memory. But yes, that one's cheap, if I recall correctly, right? I think 10 points in the Codex.
I believe you were correct, and it was 15. Let me just double check. 10 points. Way, you are correct.
This is nice because it is cheap, right? Like if I have 10 points left over, I can chuck this in, but I'm not too worried about it. It also really matters what's going to be in the meta right now, because we don't have a lot. This is going on a war boss. Let's just be clear. Correct. It's not going on a pain boy or a weird boy or anything stupid. You're putting it on a 9-attack war boss to get him from strength 11 to strength 14 when he's in a big squad.
Yep.
That jump doesn't matter in your meta, and right now, in my opinion, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's not affecting your ability to kill T9, T10 holes. It's not affecting your ability to kill light to medium infantry. It doesn't really matter. If we're at a point where Imperial Knights, especially like big knights, become much more popular, then this is automatically slotting into every Green Tide list.
Easy done. I'm going to quickly run through the next 3 for us. So Brutal but Cunning is up next. These are all Orc infantry. We don't need to say that again. In the command phase, if the bear is on the battlefield or embarked within a transport that is on the battlefield, roll 1d6, adding 2 to the result if the bear's unit contains 10 or more models. On a 5+, you gain 1 CP. So 3+ if you're in a big unit, and you will be. Is this any good, seeing as a Gretchen still exists?
Yeah, same reason as Speed Makes Right from Speed Mob isn't great. This is another ability that loses value if you roll the 4 up on your Gretchen CP.
Yeah.
So I'm not taking this, frankly.
Nah, me either. It costs 25 points as well. It is the most expensive. So yeah, definitely not taking this. Bloodthirsty Belligerence is the one you were speaking of before, 15 points. Whilst it's leading a unit, you can reroll advance rolls, and if you are 10 or more models, you can reroll charge rolls as well. And I think that's just slammed in every list.
Yeah, this is absurd. The average return on investment is you reroll a charge for 15 points. I will take that every day of the week, and sometimes you double dip, and it's insane value. Like
Yeah,
this is
absolutely.
this is in every list on a war boss.
Correct. And Raucus Warcaller. Jeez, I can't speak. Who gave me a podcast? While the bear is leading a unit, that unit always counts as containing 10 or more models for the purposes of your detachment rules and any stratagems. And that leads you to believe that every stratagem has some next level to it. Much the same as other ones that will say if you are, targeting your prey, or if you're over 10 models, you get another level of goodness. And this one also, I believe, gets slammed in most lists as well. What do you think?
Yes, this one is a little bit more nuanced than the other ones. So the stratagems and detachment rule only affect boys, except for one instance, and that is the second part of the detachment rule. The detachment rule reads: boys datasheet units have the 5-up invulnerable save, and units with 10 or more models in their unit. Orc units with 10 or more models reroll once to save. That's any orc unit. So if you have a 10-man Storm Boys unit, they reroll once to save. If you have a 10-man Gretchen unit, they reroll once to save. If you have a unit of Meganobs going to a Raucous Warcaller War Boss, that unit has reroll once to save. So this is the way to create the most durable Meganobs unit in one turn. Obviously, Bully Boys are tankier over the course of the game. But this unit of Meganobs is incredibly tanky when you factor in Feel No Pain, reroll once to save, 5-up invuln. This is a great upgrade, and I think most Green Tide players will be putting this on some kind of unit of Meganobs or Knobs.
I agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. All right. First of the stratagems: competitive streak, 1 CP battle tactic. It's in the fight phase. 1 boys unit from your army that has not been selected to fight until the end of the phase. Each time a model in your unit makes an attack, re-roll a wound roll of 1. If you are 10 or more models, re-roll the wound roll instead. It is boys unit specifically, and I think all of these boys units, they are all boys units specifically, so we don't need to read that out again. This is a fantastic stratagem.
Yeah, this is probably the greatest example of what's going to be prevalent throughout the stratagems. It's the most extreme example of this is a stratagem with a meh effect, a very mid effect, that as soon as you have 10 or more models becomes
incredible,
quite scary.
Holy crap,
a unit of boys with rerolling the wound, the one downside of the boys datasheet being, it's low strength. Okay, immediately counteract that with reroll the wound is great. Okay, now you've got a 65-point war boss giving them +1 to hit, so you're rerolling more wounds, and your 9 attacks, strength 11 war boss is rerolling the wound. Like, this unit will surprise you in the damage department.
It is crazy. If you are not wounding on 5s against this stuff or into a 2-up save, I'm just gonna scoop. I'm just going to pay the CP, unit is gone. I'm not making you roll that out against like 5 scouts or some nonsense. Anyway, next up is Bulldozer Brutality for 1 CP, also a battle tactic, also in the fight phase. 1 boys unit from your army that has not been selected to fight and is within engagement range of 1-on-1 enemy units, of course, until the end of the phase. Each time your unit is selected to fight, when determining which models in your unit are eligible to fight, any models in your unit that are within 3 of 1 or more enemy models are eligible to fight. When resolving those attacks, such models can target one of those enemy units that are within 3 of them and with engagement range of that. So this is taking away one of the biggest downsides of just 20-man blobs, as in you can just not fight with 2/3 of the unit if your opponent positions correctly. Is this a game changer?
I wouldn't say it's a game changer, but I would say it is applicable for sure. The biggest thing is it enables you to go for plays that you otherwise wouldn't be able to as a horde. There are very often times you're like, my opponent's standing behind a wall with the screening unit in the way. It's going to be impossible for me to engage them with 20 orcs this turn because I'll only be able to fight with 6 models.
Yep.
Now you have a tool to get around that. It's an expensive one. The stratagems of this detachment are excellent. Paying a CP for this is not pleasant, but if it enables a play that can turn a game, flip a game on its head, then I'll go for it. So this is a tool in the toolbox. I would not say it is like one of our best stratagems, though.
Fair. Bragging rights is up next. Your command phase: 2 boys units from your army that are within 6 of each other. Until the start of your next command phase, while those 2 units are within 6 of each other, they both count as having 10 or more models for the purposes of your detachment rule. Any enhancement models from your army have have and any stratagems you use. Okay, yeah. So it just means it accounts for everything. Sorry, I just stumbled on the last bit there. So 2 boys units, possibly both below 10, can now for 1 CP both count as more than 10. This is good, but I don't expect it to come up that often. Or maybe like on a turn 5 when you just really need to like send it or go or climb back into the game. It could be really clutch.
Exactly. Yeah, I think this is our worst stratagem, and that's not necessarily a knock against it. I think it is. It's very, very niche, right? Like maybe on turn 4 or 5, you got 3 CP singing around. You're like, I guess I'll reroll wounds with my 9-man squad and spend 2 CP on that. But it has the problem that Mob Rule did when we did the review of the Wall Tribe detachment back in the fall of last year. You're spending a CP for the privilege of spending another CP on a unit that's below half strength. That's
correct.
That is fine. Like, I can find use cases for it, but they will be few and far between.
Make sure you roll the battle shock before you spend this CP, because this is any time in the command phase. So please roll your battle shocks, because you have to be below half for this to even be applicable. If you spend the CP, then fail your battle shock. Here's your CP. It's over there going down the drain. Come On Lads is up next for 1 CP. It's in your command phase. 1 boys unit from your army. Return D3 plus 2 destroyed models to your unit. And if I had a unit that was below 10, but had 7 left or even 6 left, this is just the CP I'd be using well and truly above and beyond bragging rights.
Yup. This is an insane stratagem. The use cases for this are bewildering, and despite constantly thinking about this stratagem for the last 2 or 3 weeks, I still come up with crazy new things to do with it every single time I think about it. Like, just to name a few things, just be behind a wall with 1 guy on an objective. Your opponent shoots you off, you res onto it, stick it with boys, new datasheet ability, and then walk away. Cool. That's one use case. Another use case, revive guys and then launch a charge into your opponent's DZ to flip an objective. That's use case number 2, because it gives you like +4 to charge. Revive guys so that you go above 10 or more models to proc all of your detachment abilities and stratagems better. Cool. 1 CP, revive above 10 models so you don't have to take a battle shock test. Those are 4 incredible use cases that I just thought of randomly, in just the last minute. This stratagem is nuts.
One of the best stratagems in this book. Tide of Muscle is up next. It's in your charge phase, 1 CP. 1 boys from your army that has not been not declared a charge this phase. Until the end of the phase, each time your unit declares a charge, add the current battle round number to the charge roll. So on turn 1, you have +1 to charge. Turn 5, +5 to charge for 1 CP. So you are making a 12-inch charge on a 7 on the dice on turn 5, which is freaking phenomenal.
Yep. This stratagem is bananas as well. This and your Come On Lads are just utterly insane, especially in conjunction with each other. To give you an example, I played a game against World Eaters the other week where I had a unit of boys just chilling on my natural expansion objective. 1 CP, res people 4 inches away, 1 CP +4 to charge on turn 4. I took my opponent's home objective very comfortably on turn 4 with a unit that started the turn like 25 inches away from it. Like, the amount of mobility you can get out of this is absurd.
The level above that, again, is to combo with Bloodthirsty Belligerents. So you have reroll charges, reroll advances, and just go as far as you want. Just go. Just send it. Absolutely buck wild. I think this is a crazy good stratagem. And if you've been paying attention, we've gone through 3 stratagems that are as good as anybody's in the game, and 1 that is very situational and 1 that is meh. Only 1 that is meh so far. And here's the last one. Go get him. 1 CP. Your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. 1 boys unit from your army that was selected as the target of those attacks. After the attacking unit has shot, your unit can make a go get him move. To do so, roll 1d6. Each model in the unit can move the distance in inches up to the result, but unit must end its move close as possible to the closest enemy unit, not the one that shot you. When doing so, those models can be moved within engagement range of that enemy model. If your unit contains 10 or more models, you just move 6 instead. It is a better version of the Berserker rule, I believe. Because the fact is you don't have to go towards the unit that shot you as well. You can just be like, I'm just going to cheeky fall back here then you're going to line up a bunch of shooting on me, and I'm only going to be like an inch away. And then the first time you shoot me, even though you've lined up 5 things to shoot me, I'm just going to get back into that unit again, and then you've wasted all your shooting because you can't shoot anything else. That kind of stuff is just going to be a freaking nightmare. Let alone just okay, I'm just going to yeet 6 more inches towards you.
Exactly.
Or get out of line of sight or whatever. It's so good, dude.
And tons of mobility options and use cases, just like for the extra bonus to charge strat and the revive. The amount of stuff you can do with this and the creativity is crazy. Not to mention just like the terrifying prospect for close range shooting armies, like I'm imagining Tau, for example.
Yes.
Of
breaches, dude, just dead.
Yep. Yeah. Don't whiff on killing me because I will blood surge into combat with you and you will regret it. Yeah, it's just great. One of the biggest problems with a horde army like this is you'll often have models like dangling out on flanks, just getting shot by random weapons in your opponent's army. So you get whittled down over the course of the early game. That whittling down that your opponent does now has like game-ending consequences for them. Because if they like, yeah, I'll just shoot my Immolator's heavy bolter at your 20 boys. Oh god, they're now in combat with my, castle on my home objective on turn 2. What the hell happened? Well, you don't get to shoot Orc boys for free anymore, dude. They blood surge 6. Let's go.
So there's a couple of interesting things that are missing from this. Let's say I'm already in a combat with a tank that shoots into the combat. Can I surge in to get more boys into that combat?
I believe so. I think the Berserker one works that way. So if it is worded the same way, and GW is unfortunately not fantastic at wording the same ability the same way across codexes, but if it is worded the same way, then yes, you should be able to surge it while you're in combat.
I believe you can. I believe on the reading of this, and that there's something in FAQ or a precedent somewhere, on the reading of this, just straight up, doesn't say anything about you already being in engagement range and says you can move within engagement range. So I would say that you absolutely can. So for just mobbing objectives and or touching a bunch of other units while you're already in combat, like someone shoots you with Necron, Wraith pistols, and you're like, lol, grab another unit.
No charge for you.
This stuff can be so heinous. All right, my man. That is the stratagem package, and that is the entirety of the Green Tide. I'm so happy I got to unpack this with you because I can already tell this is your bay. And
I'm so excited.
Straight up, there are 4 like S tier strats in this detachment. Competitive streak, and then the 3 on the right side of the stratagem page. Come on, lads, Tide of Muscle, and go get them. Just bangers, just as good as anybody's.
Yeah, and frankly, I think that is needed. The stratagems and detachment rule that you just get for running the boys data sheet need to be good, right? Like you're taking an entire army whose identity is we're just a bunch of T5 dudes who have a lot of OC and are fairly tough to kill. If that's your only thing you're doing, that's not good enough to win games in Warhammer. There is a reason why Green Tide has been a dead army for the last 3 or 4 years. It's because it didn't have any sauce. There was nothing to do with your 120 guys. Now there are very, very powerful rules with which to use your 120 guys. And they won't be great in every matchup, right? Like your opponent might just have the bullets to kill you. Or they might be too tanky for you to kill and they can just exist on all the objectives and block you out. Like those are things that can happen. They're problems that Horde players have had to adapt to and take care of and brainstorm ways to deal with over the course, bring new tech into their list. Maybe you don't just take 120 orcs and character. Yeah. So there's tons of cool creative stuff in here. And I'm honestly just super happy that GW was able to bring my favorite detachment back to life. This is fantastic. Too. I love this.
I think it's stupendous. All right, let's go on to some data sheet stuff. Now, Ben Jurek's already been on. He picked two data sheets that he thinks people need to know about, or he thinks that are absolutely insanely good in the competitive game. And then one pick that was just his love. He just loves it, and it's one of his favorite models. What is Lukas Troller's first pick?
Boss Necrot.
So, yes.
I don't have the Codex in my hands yet, but what I have heard is that Boss Necrot now has the lone operative ability when he's not leading a squad of commandos.
I am of the opinion Snickrot should be in most lists. Let me just go and grab that for you so I can give you the full rundown. Where is Snickrot? Because he wasn't in the HQ section.
He might be in like an earlier section, Epic Heroes. The ability of having lone op on a codex full of melee units that have trouble staging solves all sorts of problems for you. We don't need to talk about how amazing lone operatives are. Like obviously that rule's incredible. but specifically for orcs, he's just a game changer.
He was hiding below Zogrod.
As he often does. I mean, that's hiding is kind of his thing.
Yeah. So he's got Infiltrator, Leader, Lone Op, and Stealth. Whilst this model is leading a unit, the models in the unit have the benefits of cover. Once per battle in your movement phase, instead of making a normal move with this model's unit, you can remove it from the battlefield and it gets set up again. So it bounces on and off the board like a Calidus Assassin, Infiltrator's Lone Op, Stealth. So he has Lone Op, I guess. As soon as you attach him to a unit, he loses that. But it is just an ability that he has. He is toughness 5 with a 5-up, 5-up, 6 wounds. OC 1 in combat. He's got 6 attacks, hitting on 2s at 6-1-2 with precision and twin linked. So, I mean, straight up, that's just already is a Technomancer removal system.
Yeah, AP1 isn't fantastic, but if you find the right character or even just like the right unit, right? Like he'll go in and murk 5 dudes. He'll go in and, kill an exalted 8-bound or 2. Dude's quite good. And Adam, could you do me a favor and reread that Return to the Shadows ability?
Once per battle in your movement phase, instead of making a normal move with this model's unit, you can remove it from the battlefield and set it up again anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 horizontally away from any enemy unit. So it's same turn. It's once per game. You go off in the movement phase and you come back on in the same movement phase. You aren't put into strategic reserve.
Admittedly, this is once per game, but this is now the best Return to the Shadows ability that I'm aware of.
Correct.
On that one turn anyway. Because it allows you to score any points for where Snekrod is standing, then return to the shadows and do something else with your turn.
Dude, he could be standing on an objective for 5 points and you pulled behind enemy lines and he just goes and gets that too.
Yeah, I had a game the other week where he scored 5. I drew behind enemy lines and deploy Homer, and he's like, okay, I guess my 85-point Lone Op will score 13 points and then be alive in your backfield and go murder your cultists.
Yes.
This guy is nuts.
So good. So he's 85 in the game right now. He's listed at 105 in the back of this book, but do not take the back of this book as anything, a gospel to go by. More likely it's closer to the 85. And I think he is damn near auto-include in every detachment in this book. He is so freaking good. And it doesn't matter which detachment you're in, he finds a home. Just much the same as a Calidus Assassin is at home in every single Imperium super faction detachment. This guy is much the same.
Yep.
What is your next pick?
I'm going to once again say the truck. And the truck is not particularly glamorous, but it does all sorts of jobs, a lot like the Gretchen, that the orcs just don't want to do, right? Your army is very good at applying pressure. It's very good at bullying objectives. It's very good at putting OC in places. It's very good at killing enemy units and bogging them down. Trucks aren't really good at any of that. I mean, they're pretty good at bogging the enemy down, but they can perform all the odd jobs, actions, screening, tagging, interrupt blocking that your orcs just don't want to do. And it can do that while being very cheap and very fast and completely expendable.
I love about the truck.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
The best part about it's crazy that the truck is best in is one of the best data sheets in 3 or 4 detachments for which it receives 0 buffs, right? Like it's great in Green Tide, it's great in Bully Boys, it's great in the Snaggle Horde, the Big Hunt, and it's great in War Horde. Like those 4 armies don't work without trucks, and they all give 0 buffs to trucks.
Correct.
That sounds like an insane data sheet to me.
Yes. So he's moving 12 still toughness 8, 4-up armor, 6-up invulnerable save, 10 wounds, 2 OC. One of the things that I love the most about is the freaking Wrecking Ball, which is the reason it gets such a good tank shock. Because, of course, you can use its strength 10 to trigger tank shock, yeah?
Yep, you sure can. And again, that'll receive +1 strength during the WA. So you'll get the bonus dice against things that are T10. It is a trade-off, though. The Wrecking Ball does increase the width of your truck at the midpoint by like an inch or 2. So there is a very serious trade-off. I don't run my trucks with Wrecking Balls for that reason, because I value the hiding slightly more. But it is a trade-off. Other very excellent orc players run it with the Wrecking Ball, and that's a totally valid way to play it.
I find it busted and obnoxious that Meganobs only take the space of 2 models in all transports. I get it, right? I get why they're hanging on the sides, they're hanging on the top, they're underneath it, they're all over it. But it would be such a balancing mechanic for the Bully Boys to make Mega Knobs count as 3. That would just be such a huge nerf off the cuff.
Yep, agreed.
Okay, one last one, and this one can definitely be just the heartthrob pick, your favorite model or favorite unit. Doesn't have to be a super powerful thing.
Gaskell Thraka!
Good man, good man. I would have been disappointed if both of you went through and didn't pick Gaz, because Ben did not pick Gaz.
The crazy part is, man, he was already good.
He was already good.
He got better. 2 crazy additions to his data sheet that were, it was already a great data sheet, and now it's gotten even better. So the first thing that changed with Gaskell, right? Everyone knows he's got his little buddy Makari, who's got a 2-up invuln. Gaz himself, T6, 10 wounds, 2-up, 4-up. He's not invincible like he used to be with the wound cap, but he's not easy to put down either.
Yeah.
Can join Mega Knobs. So obviously with the data sheet glow up, that's pretty darn good. And then he got 2 new things. Obviously, he still punches like an MFer in melee. He got a sweep. One of the biggest problems for Gaz was getting bogged down by little idiots. He now does not get bogged down by little idiots.
Well, also, one of the biggest issues with Mega Knobs is that if they were going into, just a horde of dudes, the Mega Knobs do not chew hordes. They do not kill hordes with any effectiveness. He has 12 attacks at 8/2/2 at hitting on 2s. He just goes through everything. That's fine.
Yeah,
fine.
That is a baby Angron worth of sweeping.
It is.
I think it's the exact same strength, AP, and damage to be exact. And then the second ability he got was a leader ability while the WOG is active. He gives his unit critical 5s. So this will obviously trip the lethal hits that Makari is providing during the WA turn. Yep. If you have any source of sustained, if I recall correctly, the only way to get sustained is in the Warhorde. But that will trigger automatically because it's your detachment rule on 5s. That's insane. So that is another great ability. Not as impactful as the sweep edition, but still very good.
And that's in addition to he's already giving the unit +1 to hit and wound, right?
Yep. Apparently he needed +1 to hit. Another ability.
Yeah, +1 to hit, +1 to wound, and crit 5s on the WA turn. And that applies to his 12 strength 8 -2 damage sweeps. So +1 to wound on them. So
why not, man?
Does not matter. Yeah, he's a baller. He's a stone cold killer. Him with a max unit. The only issue I have is that him with a max unit of Mega Knobs has to be deployed on the table, or can they go in a battle wagon?
So Gaskell takes up 18 seats. Whether or not Makari counts for another seat is unclear to me. I think that needs a very clear GW FAQ, unless I've missed it. I think that if I recall correctly, the WTC has ruled that the Gaskell Thraka data sheet, which includes Makari, takes up a total of 18 seats in a battle wagon. So you can have Gaskell, Makari, and 2 Mega Knobs ride in a wagon if you're playing with the WTC FAQ. This is pretty good. It does limit his unit's toughness, though, because he's not riding with the 6 Mega Knob super chunky squad,
Yeah, but if he is riding with 6 Mega Knobs, they're starting on the table. They're extremely expensive when it's all said and done. What's somewhere in the region of 450-ish points? I think
it's right around 400 because Gazi is hovering around 250, and the Mega Knobs are for 6 of them is 180. At the moment.
Oh, 180 for 6 Mega Knobs. And the issue with that would be like, someone has a Basilisk or an Exalted Sorcerer, and you're like, well, that unit is just not moving this game. So take that unit with caution, but Gaz is a behemoth.
He's a beast.
Ridiculous.
He's a beast who's only limited by mobility.
I wish you could join boys, but it is what it is.
That would be sick.
Busted. All right, that is us done for this part 1. Apart from our rating system, my man, how out of 10? 1 to 10, 1 being extremely unhappy, 10 being the most happiest you ever could possibly be with this codex. How happy are you?
I'm a solid 9 with the potential to go higher. I don't think I can go below 9 at this point. I was massively hyped when I saw the Green Tide rules, but was super nervous because, without having actually seen it on the tabletop, wasn't sure how good it was going to be. Between Green Tide and all the other shit to explore in this book, I'm going to be in Orky heaven for months, man. This is so cool. 10 out of 10 on flavor. Maybe not fantastic on the balance department, but the great news is that can be remedied in relatively short order, hopefully. And just like the variety, right? Like Space Marines, there are so many detachments in here that are either viable or very competitive. That's an awesome place for a book to be. And I really hope that that Orc players enjoy this book, because I know I definitely will be. This is a grand slam 10 out of 10 book.
Beautiful. All right. The next one is, shouldn't be much consternation on this. From D tier to S tier, where are Orcs going to sit?
I think they'll probably be in S. I mean, the amount of stuff that people will have to tech for to have a good game into the Orc Codex will be very challenging, right? There's like lots of different play styles that are all trying to do the same thing to you, but in wildly different ways.
Yeah.
Like Green Tide, Warhorde, and Bully Boys are all trying to beat your ass in the same way, but you need to have very different tools for each of them.
Extremely. Yeah.
And that's
strength,
a challenging thing to have to deal with.
You need las cannons and multi-melters for the Bully Boys, but will do absolutely apeshit of nothing versus the Green Tide. And so versus the Green Tide, you want lethals and sustained and rerolls. Just you want like aggressors. Yeah, just as many aggressors type units as you can get, which can just get run over by and shot to death and do nothing against Dreadmob because you don't have the right strength for nothings.
Yeah,
it's really hard dichotomy right now, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this evolves. But we're going to check out on that point and go over to part 2 and record the second half of our second part of this beautiful podcast. Hopefully, you'll go and join us over there at Art of War Down Under. Lucas, your turn to plug some stuff, my man, because you're a mover and shaker.
Yeah, so my good buddies and I, Tyler Bortel and Nicholas Olson Johnson, run the Take All Comers show on the Stat Check Network. So if you want to hear a little, it's more of a narratively driven show. So we talk about our experience, not only as avid competitors in the Pacific Northwest region of the United States. So that's Washington, Oregon, and California. But we also talk about our travels to Europe, playing for the American national team, which is pretty cool. And we're coming up on team selection here, so we're all kind of doubling down on that for a little bit. But, in the coming months, we'll be talking about the road up to WTC and what that all looks like as team players. And as well, we'll be completing a Champions Cup, which is a cool tournament that will span across the United States, Canada, and other places as well. We'll all be meeting up in Dallas in September. So if you want to hear about that journey and our attempt to whip the national or the local Portlanders into shape for that, come on by the show. We'd love to have you, and it's a great time.
Beautiful. All right, we will catch you over on that part 2, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Art of War Down Under, a content review podcast for Warhammer 40K, hosted by Adam Camilleri, produced by Seamus Ronan. Enjoyed the show? Want your lists reviewed and the content you heard put into practice? Sign up to our Patreon and connect with us online or on Facebook. Just search for Art of War Down Under. Signing out from tomorrow.